Hey guys, Case and I have a really fun video for you today because what we have here are two iconic Mercedes sedans, or at least one of them is and one of them might turn out to be, because this is an old versus new Mercedes S-Class edition, and Case has brought along his car. What are we looking at, Case?
Well, it's not technically an S-Class. This is a predecessor to the S-Class. It's a 1972 Mercedes 280 SEL. This is a W108 chassis. It's got a 4.5 liter V8, fuel injected, surprisingly, and yeah. It's kind of cool to see it next to what they're doing now.
That's right, yeah, so that's the W108 generation of Mercedes-Benz, and this is the brand new S-Class, the W223. And in this video, we are going to compare them. We're going to try to find some design lineage between the two, talk about the engines, the interiors, and take them for a quick spin. Now, as Case mentioned, back in the day, 72 was, I think, the last year you were saying, Case, for the 108s.
Yeah.
These were never really referred to as the S-Class. The S-Class designation kind of came later, but this was the top dog, right?
Yeah. If you wanted a really nice Benz, this was roundabout the top of the line. There was also a 300 SEL, so this is a 280, and in the 300 SEL you got Citroen hydropneumatic suspension, you got extra chrome trim around the windows, and you could even spec these with a 6.3 liter V8, which is pretty cool. Mine is the smaller 4.5.
I think kind of the big design aspect that's the same between the two are, of course, the badging. You've got the lay-down star and then the stand-up star, and you see that both on the new and the old, but also the grille, so very large and in charge with these horizontal strips that run the length of the grille. And you can see at Case's old car here, you still have those horizontal strips, but this was a very cool grille design. It almost looks like something out of like the 1910s and 20s, where they emphasize the radiator design. But these cars are just stunning. And this one, if you might notice, has something special going on with the headlights. What did you do here?
Yeah, these are actually Euro headlights, so the US spec headlights had to be sealed beams. That was the case for imported cars for decades, and the sealed beam look is not what this car was designed to have in the European market. This is the European design headlight. It's the waterfall. There's definitely people out there that prefer the sealed beam units, and that's fine. You can prefer the sealed beams if you want.
You can be
this
wrong.
Isn't your car, yeah. So this is the Euro style headlight. It's one piece, and in my mind, what this car is supposed to have.
Case, are you missing a mirror here, or did this never have a mirror?
No, this didn't actually have a mirror. I think it was an option because I have seen some with them, but no, that wasn't anything that got shaved. This car never had a passenger mirror.
Now, some other nice design elements, like I love the giant cowl vent here. That's just stunning.
Yeah, and that lets in fresh air, so I've got a little lever on my dash, and that's actually a feature I like a lot on older vehicles, is being able to let in fresh air. Not even have to turn on a fan, it just kind of rolls in as you cruise down the road. The other thing that I like a lot about old cars, and I know you like these too, are the smoker windows. So this just allows you to bring in, again, some fresh air without having to fully open your window.
Yeah, those are phenomenal. Absolutely. I also like the windshield wipers on this car, how they kind of go opposite to each other.
Yeah, and the way that they tuck in there is kind of neat. Not quite as neat as it is on the new car, which it's mostly obscured by the hood, but yeah, I mean, these are older vehicles, so you see more of those elements that actually took to build the car.
So what do we have going on with the wheels? So is this a hubcap? What's the size there?
Yeah, it's a steel wheel with a hubcap, and small, it's a 14-inch wheel, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I like the hubcap style a lot. Originally, the center of the hubcap would have been body color matched. This car, when I got it, was kind of a mustard yellow color. Not my favorite color, and the paint wasn't in perfect shape, so we had the car resprayed this silver, which is very classic for a German vehicle, which I like a lot. And maybe at some point I would consider painting the center of the hub to actually match this silver color, but I kind of like the fully polished caps. There's so much bright work, so much chrome trim on this car. That plus the silver paint, it's a very shiny, pretty object to look at. So every time I take this out on the road, I without fail get comments on it. People love the car.
No, it's gorgeous. I like the stacked bumpers too. Those are cool. And
yeah,
then the little dual exhausts.
Yeah,
very cool.
And it actually needs a new exhaust. There's a hole rusted in the exhaust, so it's got a horrible exhaust tick.
So the 280 SEL is it's a little confusing because it's not a 2.8 liter. And then SEL, was this like the long wheelbase? What did the L stand for?
Yeah, so the L is the extended wheelbase, and if you look, this passenger door is actually pretty huge. It's a deceptively long car. It looks very small. It's not nearly as wide as the new car, but this is actually a long vehicle.
So if we take a look at the new car, you can see that from a design standpoint, pretty much nothing has remained the same between the old and the new. There's kind of one crease which is the same, which is this long, continuous horizontal crease that starts in the fender along the door. But apart from that, like, it doesn't have a flat roof like the old one. It's not super squared off in the rear end. It's got these long kind of horizontal tail lights, which is different than the old one. I think it's still a handsome car, but certainly not as iconic in a lot of ways. Like, for example, the fender openings on these old Mercedes have this beautiful kind of sweep to them. On the new car, they've just gone to a more conventional semicircle. Now the wheels, of course, have gotten quite a bit larger. These are 20-inch wheels, tons of different wheel options too. And then along back, one thing that is similar is that the badging means pretty much nothing. So S580, this is not a 5.8 liter. It is an S-Class. And then, of course, the SEL has left the chat as well, although we have gained 4MATIC.
Wow, so 580, this is 300 better.
300 better?
300 units more.
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, let's pop the hoods on both of them and take a look at the engine.
Yeah, we can do that. Pop the hood on the old car, and you can see this absolute mess. There's so many vacuum lines under here, mystery tubes, all kinds of stuff that is really not my favorite, and mechanical fuel injection, which is also very complicated.
So what's the displacement on this engine? Yeah,
4.5 liter, but again, it is fuel injected. This car is actually surprisingly high-tech for its time, which is kind of Mercedes' thing. So not only is it fuel injected, four-wheel disc brakes, fully independent suspension, it's even got 3-point seat belts,
wow,
central locking, power windows, not power mirror, but yeah, a surprising amount of power features and technology for its time.
Power steering as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's called the D-Jet in 72, but the mechanical fuel injection, I think, is one of the stressful things about owning an old Mercedes, because when it works, it's perfect. When it doesn't work, just empty the wallet, I suppose. Yeah, and again, I mean, it's just very complicated under here. They didn't make this the most simple or serviceable setup in the world, but yeah, around about 200 horsepower more or less. Everywhere that you look, it tells you a different number. Right. Sometimes it's 196, sometimes it's 230. Yeah. This engine, though, I think it's fair to say, is more torquey than it is powery. So yeah, torque numbers I found were like 280-ish, but that could be wrong as well. And then what's the transmission? Transmission is a 3-speed automatic, and yeah, 3-speed. It's not my favorite transmission, but it works. I mean, it goes down the highway just fine. This car will do any speed that you want it to. It just won't get to that speed very quickly at all. All right, let's see what the new one has. So it's actually worse than the old one because it's a 4-liter. No, I'm kidding, of course. 0.5 less. 0.5 less, but you know, we're looking at nearly 500 horsepower out of a twin-turbo 4-liter. And then, of course, 4MATIC all-wheel drive. So a lot more sophistication, also a lot more engine cover to deal with. Yeah, they're hiding all the ugly, complicated stuff, which, yeah, I guess makes you kind of forget that eventually these are going to be a pain, like that car is. Yes, and then the difference is, of course, that when this does go wrong, every single aspect of this car is electronically controlled. Funny enough, so you know, like there's this massive chip shortage going on. Oh yeah. So Mercedes is known for their V8s, but because of production constraints and all that, the only two vehicles you can buy a V8 in the Mercedes lineup is the G-Wagon and the S-Class. Really? Yeah, there you have it. But so yeah, 4-liter twin-turbo V8, and then you know, this is just a hint of the tech that is to come, because this car is a monument of technological achievement, but we will take a look at that once we hop in the old Mercedes interior. Oof, that is a heavy door. Yeah, this is one of the nice things about the old car, is it is built like a vault. And a really pretty dash. At the moment, you can see, still working on the stereo system. There's actually a lot of things on this car that I'm working on, tuning, the wood trim. But yeah, I mean, actually, it's aged pretty well. It's only got just over 50,000 miles, and it's a really, really pretty interior. Now, it's worth noting that these had, I think, 5-digit odometers, but because this car has been in your family since new, yeah, I think it's fair to say. My great-grandfather bought this car brand new, so we know that it is actually 50,000 miles. Now, my favorite part is just, like, the thickness of the wood. It's not... It's like an entire tree was slapped across the dashboard. But you're right. I mean, it's amazing how well everything is aged in here. Very little plastic. Like you do have some for like the defrost sliders.
A little bit.
And then is this the air conditioning system?
Yeah, so the air conditioning separate from the heater, and it doesn't work fantastic. This is a big interior. Again, it's a deceptively large car. It looks small, but the interior space is big, and all of the AC just comes out of these two vents, so it takes a while to cool off in here.
It is incredible that like everything you touch is either leather or real metal, and that's something that even though the new car is nice, you don't get. And then you've got this really cool gauge cluster.
Yeah, the font on that, the lines in it, it's a really pretty instrument cluster, especially the speedometer.
So the seats, is this leather or is this like a MB Tex vinyl, do you know?
I honestly don't know. You'll have to let us know in the comments, but it's a pretty interesting material. And then these seats are just so soft. The car doesn't really need suspension at all.
It's incredibly unsupportive, but at the same time, like remarkably just like, well, spongy was the word over there.
Yeah, it's like leather furniture.
And then super thin steering wheel.
Yeah, with these really interesting little knobs on the back for your fingers to rest in. It's actually, the wheel's got a really nice feel to it.
So one cool thing, which I think not a lot of people consider, is that even though this car would be horrific in an accident by today's standard,
Yeah.
in 72, like this was pretty advanced. I mean, Case mentioned the 3-point seatbelts, which was a huge deal. It's got a padded dash, right? It's got a padded button.
Wow.
For the hub. So like these things now you're like whatever, but when you consider like a lot of American cars just had a flat sheet metal dash, right? And when you hit them, your head would go slamming into oblivion. Mercedes also pioneered like crumple zones. That was a really big deal. So yes, you wouldn't want to hit anything, but back in the day, this was like a pioneer for safety tech. Okay.
Ooh. Look at that.
Ooh, welcome to the 21st century. So the interior obviously is a lot more tech savvy than the old car, but still pretty nice. What do you think of like this yacht inspired wood?
I'm sure there's people out there that just think this is terrible, but I think this is really cool. I also love the vent design. This is all pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, that's interesting. So you adjust up and down with this guy and side to side with this guy.
Yep, and then look at the speaker grates.
Oh, the speaker is spinning.
Yep, they do a little twirl. You've got central vents across the dash too with 3 position on and off. So what they've done with the new car is just jam-pack it full of as much tech as physically possible. So not only do you have this incredibly massive display, but it is just, I mean, it's like a symphony of technology and the kind of stuff that it can do. In some ways, I mean, I think some people are going to be probably pretty overwhelmed with all the stuff it can do, but it certainly is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot. I'm more of an old car guy than new vehicles, and yeah, there's a lot going on here. A lot of things that I look at and think, that might not age super well, but if you're buying this car brand new, this is a beautiful place to sit.
Yeah, for example, you have like parking displays, and you can like do a full 360 around the car in real time to like see what you're near and what you're going to hit. Look how big your car looks relative to the S-Class. Of course, it does have Apple CarPlay and all the kind of phone connectivity you come to expect. Much thicker steering wheel. One thing I don't like is they've got rid of pretty much every knob in the interior, so it's all like sliders and it's all like touch sensitive stuff. The other thing I don't like is the piano black here in the middle. Which is,
yeah, I mean, you can already tell this is already looks like it's kind of scuffed. But,
right. But from like a comfort thing, I mean, you've got not only leather seats, but they massage you, and there's also like energizing comfort systems that you can engage, which will surround you with mood music.
I already don't understand what you're doing. I'm not following.
And then if you sniff, there's perfume coming out of the vents. I kid you not. And then you feel the heartbeat in the seats.
This is all very off-putting. This is supposed to comfort us?
This is the warmth comfort setting.
I don't like it. This is kind of scary.
Yep, so that's the warmth. And then, of course, it does have a digital instrument cluster. And it also, believe it or not, let me turn the heartbeat down. Believe it or not, it also has a 3-dimensional digital cluster, which you're not going to be able to see on camera, but full heads-up display. I mean, it's just insane what they have incorporated tech-wise. Also, you'll notice, like, when I went to energizing warmth, it turned on the heated seats. The armrests are also heated.
Wow.
It also has a glass roof. and it legitimately has pillows on the headrests.
Yeah, the pillows are cool. That's pretty nifty. I like that a lot. That makes up for the fact that the seats aren't as squishy. And then a lot of details, like the fact that this overhead console has this really cool surround made out of metal. I mean, there's a lot to like about this interior.
Yeah, they really did do a nice job. I know, like we talked about the old one being full of like high quality materials and no plastics, and even though there are some more plastics in this one, it is very well executed and feels really, really well, or really, really good. So let's jump in the old one. We'll go for a quick spin, and then we'll take the new one for a drive.
Sounds good.
All right, Case.
Yes.
What an experience!
It is. It's very plush. It's very soft. It's not as quiet on the inside as a modern car, but it is a nice thing to ride around in. I'll give it that.
Oh yeah, and look at the size of the windows. I mean, it's like you're kind of in a fishbowl, but it is such a beautiful experience being in this car.
And that's the reason that you don't need a passenger side mirror, is I can just turn my head and I can see everything that's over there. It's also got very light power steering, and it does not take a lot to turn the car. So yeah, it's a nice thing to drive. It'll be even nicer when I get some work done to this car and it's running better.
Yeah, but the V8 is there. It propels you down the road, but there's no emphasis on acceleration or sportiness to be blunt.
The car does not have a sense of urgency, and part of it having a 3-speed transmission is that, the way it's geared is very long, so it will get to whatever speed you want to go to, but it accelerates the same at 60 miles an hour as it does at 15, so I'll gun the throttle here.
Wow, that's actually way better than I was expecting.
I mean, it's got a little bit of torque, but God, that exhaust leak is so bad.
It's got like a good shove though, right off the bat. It kicks you in the butt, and then it just, that's good. That's really good.
It's nothing to write home about, but I mean, it works.
Yeah, and the ride is good too. It's got a super squishy ride. No, I mean, this was from a different era of luxury. I mean, I think luxury back in this era was emphasized by, longevity in the Mercedes. So you could buy a Cadillac or a Lincoln at this time that had way more features, way more power features, and way more kind of luxury equipment, but the Mercedes was going to last you 50 years, which clearly this one has done.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it is low mileage, so at least the powertrain is not really, worn out. It's just, this car spent a lot of time sitting. I only recently got it from my home in Georgia out here to Colorado, so there's still a lot of things that need to get tweaked and refined now that the car actually lives out here and I can start working on it, driving it, and keeping it maintained.
So let's start talking about prices and values when we jump in the new car. So yours, we looked it up, it's kind of all over the board, but probably like 20 to 25 grand.
Yeah, for a really nice one.
Yeah, which yours is. I'm going with it. This car has an MSRP of $140,000. So, we're talking about a pretty
considerably more expensive.
Pretty substantial gap in prices. But the cool thing about this car, which I was really surprised about when I jumped in it, is that when you put it in the comfort mode, it's actually super soft.
Yeah, for a modern car, that is impressively soft. Definitely not as soft as the old car.
No.
But, surprisingly so.
Even though this has, about 500 horsepower, you don't hear any of them as you drive along. And the 9-speed automatic is extremely unintrusive. Yeah, it's good. I really like it. Now, the steering, of course, is much more precise. And if you want, you can dial in, like, Sport mode or Sport Plus mode. But why even have those options in an S-Class?
Yeah, I mean, the S-Class should be, in my mind, about cruising. The AMG versions, obviously, are a different story, but this is a beautiful car to spend some time in, to be relaxed in. I wouldn't say it's as cool as the old car. The old car is something that I could take to a car show, and people get a kick out of it, and I love it for that. But this is something that you want to spend every day, and you could easily storm cross-country in this and be the happiest person on the road.
It's a little quick.
Whoa.
It's a little quicker.
Yeah, that's got some push. That's impressive for a big car.
It does have some push, and even more impressive, which I'll demonstrate up here. So this car has 4-wheel steering, and there's actually 2 options. You can get one with 4.5 degrees like this car, or up to 9 degrees. And it's a little unnerving trying to make a U-turn because it does it does things that a car the length of a school bus shouldn't do in terms of maneuverability. So even though it is an incredibly large vehicle, it still is able to maneuver around tight turns really, really well. And the other cool thing about this car is, of course, it's modern. So it's full of airbags and crumple zones, and it's got the latest and greatest in emergency braking and all sorts of safety tech that you come to expect, along with convenience tech like lane centering and adaptive cruise control and all that kind of fun stuff. All right, ready?
Let's see it.
And full lock.
Yeah, actually that is impressive. That's the kind of turning radius I would expect out of a much smaller car.
Yeah, even though it's an extremely long luxury barge, it's still able to really maneuver in a small distance. So what do you think, Case? Has Mercedes improved the S-Class over the last 50 years?
It's definitely an improvement. I mean, the new car is so comfortable, it's so quiet, it's luxurious, there's so much tech in there, it drives really well, which my car being a project is not something that I can say about it yet. But at the same time, in terms of longevity, in however many years, I'd be surprised if that new car is really sticking around with all the tech that's in it.
Well, we will circle around back in 50 years when we are mid-70s and we will see what the solution is. But yeah, I think Case nailed it on the head. I think the old car is very elegant, very beautiful. It's clearly lasted a long time, but in terms of just like the driving experience, the new one just blows it out of the water.
Definitely.
From every metric. Well guys, thank you so much for watching this old versus new comparison. As always, this has been Tommy and Case. We'll see you on another episode of TFL Classics and TFL Car.